Right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the JFL Network. I'm analyst Phil Holes. You may know my nephew, Jerry, quarterback for the Corsairs, and I'm with
Jiffy Nuts at your service.
Jiffy Nuts. And today we're going to be talking about the best and worst draft picks of the Season 1 draft. We've had about 2 seasons now to reflect on this and 2 seasons of data. And we'll talk about who picked well, who picked terrible, who sucks.
That's right, ladies and gents. Now, although they are still quite young in their careers, it's still nice to go back and reflect upon how these picks played out for their respective teams.
You ready to get into it?
No.
Okay. First round. So, obviously, in the first round, the first overall pick, Jack Malley, taken by the Salamanders. He won the Heisman Trophy. But I want to look at the bottom of this draft class. The bottom of the round. Quarterback Tiber Jericho to the Sharks, I feel like, is a pretty easy answer here. It's a pretty loaded round. I'd say the only misses of the round are my nephew Jerry, Isaac Kowalski maybe. But you got players like Ernie Gecko who could contend for that top spot. Jack Malley for sure. Demario Rochevon's great. Otto Wallace is great. Danny Cruzham was mediocre. But I think Tiber Jericho is far and away the answer here. He was the MVP of Season 1. He's the only MVP we've ever had at this point. And had an insane season. 3,500 passing yards in an 8-game season. Pretty ridiculous. My vote's on Tiber Jericho there.
You can make a pretty okay or solid case. The first round is pretty good. Like there are probably more hits in here than there are misses. But Tiber Jericho would be the safest choice. It could be... in my opinion, it is also the correct choice, but you could make a strong case for Jack Malley.
But Tiber Jericho to fall to 10. How in the world did he fall to pick 10? Guys like Ike Michaels and Isaac Kowalski aren't even relevant anymore. Like Ike Michaels is already benched. He was the second overall pick. He got benched. Tiber Jericho's my vote. What do you think?
It is also mine. If we shift our lens now to the negative aspect of this round, I think the guys you just mentioned a few seconds ago are in contention here. Ike Michaels, I think, already has it. Reiterate what you just said, he's already a bench warmer. He was taken second overall, and now he doesn't even contribute to his team. He's there. What could have been literally anybody else in this first round is now Ike Michaels. So my vote is immediately on him.
I think it's got to go to Ike Michaels, considering the fact he's the only one not playing anymore. Jerry Holes has been arguably the worst quarterback in the league this season. The only one arguably worse is Isaac Kowalski or Ike Michaels' replacement, actually, Ronnie Wiley, who was drafted this season. Jerry Holes is still a starter. Isaac Kowalski is still a starter. And Ike Michaels isn't. All right, let's go to the second round. So a lot of crazy players here. We've got a lot of high ups and really low lows. Crazy bust. Raquise Davies was a huge bust for the Rhinos. John Badunce in the second round. John Badunce is probably the worst player in the league.
Let's start on a high note here. I always forget that Randall was also not taken in the first round. I always think he's a first rounder, but I think Ricky Toon is the clear winner here. You can make a tiny case for Corlin because he is a reigning Super Bowl champion.
And Super Bowl MVP and All-Pro. William Tevin's an All-Pro. He's been pretty good. Ray Graham was underwhelming Season 1. Hans Bach-Aken was a major bust. He was a risky take. He's contending for the worst probably on this list.
That didn't play out for him.
Justin Salas at pick 11's an All-Pro. But I think Ricky Toon is the clear number one guy. But Randall Corlin's close. Randall Corlin's real close. Like Super Bowl MVP. Best rushing quarterback in the league.
Ricky Toon was taken at a higher selection and is not a Super Bowl winner. Randall Corlin was taken lower and is a Super Bowl MVP and winner.
True, but I think positional value plays a play there because like Randall Corlin, yeah, he's good, but he's the quarterback. Him alone can carry the team. Ricky Toon's just a wide receiver, and if the rest of his team is mediocre or his quarterback's mediocre, like Ruth Legain, then he can't really do a whole lot. Especially when all his help got traded away. Like Soren Kelsey and Travion Meissen are gone. He's the only receiver left on that core now that's worth anything.
Well, then wouldn't he be targeted more then?
Well, that's why he's the number one. Like that's why he gets targeted the most, and he makes it happen. But it is crazy that Malik Crowar is now teammates with Ricky Toon in that Soren Kelsey trade. The top 2 receivers in the draft are now on the same team. It's pretty bizarre.
It's crazy how the world works out. I guess my vote will stick with Ricky Toon, but Randall Corlin is a very close second.
For the worst, Man, I think John Badunce being that terrible just kind of puts him there. But we do have to note Raquise Davies was a massive bust. He's on a different team now. Hansbach Akin was a bust, but I don't think he was in John Badunce realm. I think it's John.
I think
Badunce.
it is a fight. I think it is a noodle fight between Raquise and John.
Raquise Davies at least puts up more than a single stat a game. John Badunce averages less than one catch a game for his career.
We hinge on the calls on whether or not John received or had a reception or not. So I think John Badunce does take the worst here.
John Badunce, a second-round pick, is bizarre. Imagine if he took anybody else. The Lancers probably win Jupiter Bowl 1 if they hit their second-round pick instead of taking the worst player in the league. Third round.
First round. We got guys like Cruz Gibbs is in here, Dekalov's in here, Dodrum's in here, Quinn Swala's in here. This is a pretty good round.
Dodrum is an All-Pro. Dekalov's an All-Pro. Cruz Gibbs is about to be probably MVP this season. Well, this is tough.
This is a good sprinkling. I think we can rule out Dekalov. I think he's had a lower. He hasn't played as
Dekalov. Season 1, Dekalov was incredible, but he's been pretty lackluster this season. So I think you can rule him out. He was arguably the best linebacker in the league season 1. He set the record for most forced fumbles in a season. But yeah, he's really done nothing this season with that Glaciers defense. Cruz Gibbs looks like an MVP, so it's between him. Dustin Dodrum was insane season 1, but he's also kind of had a fall off this season. I think it goes to Cruz Gibbs. He leads the league in passing. He passed Tiber Jericho. Okay. Tiber Jericho, for the first time in his career, is not leading the league in passing yards. It is now Cruz Gibbs.
I think he's even lessened his interception rate too. So
I think he has.
I think Cruz Gibbs takes this.
Cruz Gibbs, yes. Third round pick quarterback. It's pretty crazy. Worst is a debate here. There's some awful players in this round. Cal Montgomery, oh my gosh, he's been played for 4 teams already, if that tells you anything. Absolutely awful. Calvin Zenner put 12 fumbles up in season 1, and then played 1 game this season, which was week 7, and he put up 2 yards. Trey Colt is off his team already. He's pretty awful. Alan Perard is on a practice squad already.
It's that bottom 4 right there that's in contention.
I think this is really tough. Cal Montgomery is egregious, but he has played for 4 different teams. Calvin Zenner
better though?
Well, I mean, he is getting contracts at least. Calvin Zenner put up 12 fumbles, terrible rushing yards, and then sat on a practice squad until week 7 when a team that's tanking signed him. And in that game, he put up 2 yards.
If your team signs you to lose a game, then that's pretty bad.
I mean, Trey Colt has done nothing, but Trey Colt isn't a detriment to his team like Calvin Zenner is. 12 fumbles in 8 games is just unreal.
Butters his arms up before he goes out to play.
Yeah, you wonder why Ricky Toon didn't have much success last season. Well, his running back was Calvin Zenner.
Let's move on to the 4th round.
Got some names here. Marty DeBerry's solid. Bron Carmichael is probably the best linebacker in the league this season. Derek Makin's an All-Pro this season. Cooper Hathaway's solid. I mean, I think this is pretty easy. I think Bron Carmichael is the only real top tier player here.
He's the only one that's had success in 2 seasons in a row. At least
he barely missed All-Pro season 1. He's the best linebacker in the league this season. Derek Makin's going to be an All-Pro this season too, but he's not top of his position.
There's not too much to discuss here. I think if you don't take Bron Carmichael out of all these guys first, then I don't know what you're thinking here.
I think Brock Jones is the only actually bad player here. The rest of them are all good players.
Average.
Everyone here is a good player. Henry Rodriguez is a good tight end. Alano Mila has the record for receiving yards in a game with 275. Marty DeBerry is a good player. He's a wide receiver 1. Cooper Hathaway is the number 1 DB he's the number 2 now on the Lancers. He's a good player. I think Brock Jones is the only actually bad player here. He was the worst tight end in the league season 1. This is actually a solid round. This is a good round. For the 5th round, we have players like Joey McClain, who's looking pretty good, solid running back. Jalen Tyrell's an All-Pro.
Yeah,
Daryl Glenn's an All-Pro. Tucker Borston's the best D lineman in the league. Ruiz Levi's good. Jay Bolton's good. Xavier Allenberg's good too. I mean, there's a lot. This is a good round too. This is a good round. I think Tucker Borston being the number 1 D lineman back-to-back seasons, leading the league in sacks both seasons. Barely not winning Defensive Player of the Year last season to King Salazar.
I mean, everybody else here is good. They just don't compare to Tucker and what he's done.
Yeah, there's other All-Pros, but just Tucker Borston is Tucker Borston. So, I'm voting Tucker Borston. For the worst player, it's kind of tough. So there's a couple mediocre players here. Rick Smothers is Like he's had a lot of glimpses of success. He's been pretty solid. Conway Boris has been a mediocre level player for the Rhinos, but I think the only one who's been really bad here is Tatrion Smith. He spent some time on the practice squad.
I say you give it to Tatrion.
I think it's Tatrion. All right, 6th rounds. Okay, well, the 6th round started off with a banger pick, Mason Mountain. Mason Mountain, though, nobody expected to contend with Ricky Toon for best receiver. He's the one who stopped Ricky Toon from triple crowning last season. He was 3 yards away from not only the single game receiving record with 272, he was also 3 yards away from the season record from Ricky Toon. He was 1,040 yards when Ricky Toon had 1,003. He's still tearing it up this season. Mason Mountain's a great player. But you go down 2 picks and you see Ross Blunt for the Rhinos, who's just excellent.
He's sexy too. Andre Vermel right there. All pro right below him, all pro right below him, defensive player of the year.
A loaded round. Andre Vermel, yeah, he could make all pro this season too for the Corsairs with Jerry Hulls, my nephew, throwing too. Jeremiah Conalock led the league in tackles last season. Formerly had the record for both tackles in a season and tackles in the game. Both were broken by rookie Olive Rusty this season. King Salazar, it might be the best defensive player on earth. He had 10 interceptions last season. He has 11 this season with still a game to play. That's a lot of good players. I thought it was Mason Mountain until I looked down.
That pick number 57.
Tyreek Herman.
Single-handedly keeping this from being the best round ever.
Single-handedly. Tyreek Herman's the worst. Let's just get that out of the way. Tyreek Herman is one of the worst football players to ever play.
Here.
I think it's King Salazar.
Yeah, I guess you could give it to Salazar. I mean, he's reigning defensive player of the year. He's probably going
to win it again. So I think that gives him the edge over anybody else. That's insane. 4 picks in a row, just bangers, dude. If Clay Schlesinger wasn't there, that'd be like 6 picks in a row, just bangers. All right, for the 7th round, we have players like DeAndre Tulloch, who's going to make All-Pro this season. Ryan Craig, former All-Pro. DeMarcon Conker is making All-Pro this season. Aaron St. Barrio and Carlton Locke are solid players. I see a lot of solid players this round.
Yeah, no household names, but these are your depth guys to complete the team.
I think it's between. Ooh, that's actually tough. I think it's between Tulloch, Craig, and Conker. I think are the 3 that's between. Those are the 3 actual All-Pros. That's tough. That's really tough. DeMarcon Conker is the leading tight end receiver this season. He had a 241-yard game. DeAndre Tulloch is top 3 in tackles, though. That's tough. What do you think?
If I really had to choose, I appreciate defensive players a little bit more than offense, but
both players are looking like they're going to be first-time All-Pros this season, so that's not really something we can choose to decide. I think I'd go DeAndre Tulloch.
I'd also give the slight edge to Tulloch because Conker is phenomenal. You could argue or he's the best tight end in the league. But how much of that success is because he's on the best team in the league with the most throw happy quarterback besides Tiber Jericho? I think you give it to Tulloch.
Worst players going to be pretty tough. Ethan Herricks is pretty bad. Justin Orneon's pretty bad. And Green Arm is pretty bad.
I don't even know where he is.
He's the Corsairs' backup receiver. The thing is, though, he's played there consistently. He's been the number 2, which isn't impressive, but I think he's done enough to put him ahead of players like Ethan Herricks. So I might give it to Jonathan Greenarm because he got practice squad.
Someone who contributes to the team is automatically better than someone who's sitting on the bench. So
Jonathan Greenarm, 8th round. Any highlights here? Wow, this is a pretty mediocre round. We have 2 All-Pros, though. We have Icy Danzler and Marvin Smith. Everyone else, they're all just mediocre or bad players. Icy or Marvin? I mean, Icy Danzler was really good season 1. He was the number 2 running back in the league. But this season, I think he's 5th, maybe. Marvin Smith is very, very underrated. He's not talked about enough. Season 1, he was an All-Pro. In Season 2, he's looking like a top 3 defensive back in the entire league. Back-to-back All-Pro seasons. I think I'd give it to Marvin Smith. Icy's just too inconsistent. Marvin Smith consistently puts up quality performances and is a big part of that Salamanders turnaround.
Give me Marvin Smith.
Worst player.
As for the worst, I see duds.
Taco Palman's mediocre. Roy Ayers. Devin Bolton's decent. Jackson Watson's mediocre. Denmark's mediocre. Pacers mediocre. And Reed is mediocre. That leaves Travion Jones is the only player I'd say is ass.
I haven't even heard his name, so I say he's an automatic win.
I don't think he's even on the Leopards anymore. He might be. Travion Jones, worst player.
Give it to Travion, yep.
Let's see here. We have two All-Pros. Cam Crutter's an All-Pro. Tyrese Coffin's an All-Pro. So I think probably between those for who's
Cam
the best
Crutter was
player.
in the 9th round?
Yeah, Cam Crowder was in the 9th round. Number 1 wide receiver on the reigning champions. What more do you want?
Can anybody really compete with him though? Travion Myson, maybe.
Trayvon Myson was barely missed All Pro, but he definitely isn't better than Cam Crowder. Tyrese Coffin was an All Pro. He's also going to miss it this season with Cam Crowder. Cam Crowder has a chance to still make it, but it's unlikely. Coffin's had a dip in production. I think Cam Crowder takes this. Best receiver on the best team, or the reigning champs. For worst
As
player,
for worst, I see
there's a lot of
Greg
bad.
Donald down there.
There's a lot blah blah blah. There's a lot of bad players. Greg Daniels bad, but Jalen Herman, the other Herman brother, them both being drafted single-handedly put the Corsairs back 3 seasons.
God. I mean, just because his last name is Herman, he kind of already has the
He was worse than
Tyreek.
Tyreek. We gave Tyreek worst player in his draft. Jalen Herman was worse than Tyreek.
Okay, we'll give it to Jalen. Herman brothers sweep.
Herman brothers undefeated at sucking.
I see like 3 bright spots here.
Okay, there's a few good players here.
You got Ayers, you got Arden Babylon.
Punnett is George Ayers is solid. Morty Fay is good. He's the number 1 DB on the Lancers now. Marcus Moore Eiling is one of the bright spots on the Corsairs defense.
I thought Punnett was good last season.
He had a couple good games. He's really like a flash in the pan, and then he's mid the rest of the season. Charles Millward had 4 picks in a game, but I see 1 All Pro here.
Arden
Babylon's been very lackluster this season. He got traded to the Corsairs, but he was like the number 2 linebacker in the league last season, arguably number 1. And I don't know. I think you give the All Pro the best pick.
As a Rhino, I hope to see George Ayers. If we do this concept of video again, I hope to see him creep up for conversation.
Ayers has a chance to make All Pro this season, I believe. He's had a really good development.
I enjoy this guy. I think in my heart, I got to give it to Ayers, but you got to give it to the former All Pro.
For the worst,
give it to Derek Waffleman, because who the
Derek
fuck?
Waffleman is so bad at football, man. Shane Calloway is pretty bad, but at least he plays. Derek Waffleman is arguably the worst lineman in the league, probably.
Oh wow!
Wow, there's some bangers in this round. Hank Lewison is one of the best tight ends. Barely missed All Pro last season. He's likely making All Pro this season for sure. Lamar Humphrey,
dude.
Lamar Humphrey is the second best DB in the league this season. Kwame Erica was pretty solid for season 1. I don't know how he's sitting on a practice squad right now. The Sharks are just greedy.
Who?
Kwame Erica. He was the best linebacker 3 in the league last season, and Sharks practice squad right now after they traded for him. They literally traded for him for the playoffs in season 1, and then after the playoffs were over, sat him on the practice squad and drafted 2 linebackers. Trade him or something, dude. There's trade value in Kwame Eric. He had 20 tackles in a game last season. He had the record. Yeah. He was the first record tackles in a game record holder.
That's it. Well, the Sharks are notorious for doing questionable moves, but it turned out in the end.
Hank Lewis and Lamar Humphrey. Lamar Humphrey has like 7 picks on the season.
But he's on the Kingfishers, though.
He's their best player. He's not on the Kingfishers anymore. He's on the Paladins now. Traded to the Paladins.
Oh, if he's on the Paladins, I gave it to Lamar.
Hank Lewison, though, close second.
Hank Lewis, is he still on the Sharks? Okay, yeah. I'm giving it to Lamar, but I haven't heard Hank's name as much as I have. I haven't heard his name as much than I did in season 1. So he only put up 800 yards last season, Avery says.
For the worst player, I think Barry Fisher and Remy Rico are the only bad ones. Rico at least has been playing nonstop for the Griffins. Fisher was dropped to the practice squad. Barry Fisher.
Funny that the Sharks drafted a guy named Fisher.
Barry Fisher was a key part of the Sharks having the worst run defense in the league last season. Running backs used to salivate when they saw the Sharks on their schedule. Right. 12th round, it's Soren Kelsey.
Yeah. Name the steal of the entire season 1 draft. It's hard to not immediately give it to him. But let's just say we're in a deranged world where he isn't the clear-cut winner. You have guys in here, you got Darrell.
Tanner Beauplan.
You got Tanner Beauplan, who's having a phenomenal second season. Bernard Dupont, he's very solid. There's
a lot of mediocre role players here. Tanner Beauplan and Soren Kelsey are only
names in here.
Good ones. I think it's
we'll give it to Soren.
I think Soren Kelsey.
Pretty close.
Worst player.
Soren Kelsey's a great wide receiver name.
It's Oliver Chansey. There's bad players in
Huh?
this round, but Oliver Chansey is the worst, I believe. He's done nothing.
It's pretty hard to play
this year.
DB, so when you're bad at it, it's pretty bad for your team as a whole. 13th round, baby.
There's some good
Okay,
players here.
you got
There's some
guys.
decent
You got
players. Whitaker
starting at the bottom.
Nichols
Whitaker Nichols
is
pretty good.
probably the best one. Roger Elwin, actually, maybe.
Roger Elwin. If Roger Elwin makes All Pro, I think we give it to him. But we don't. If that's still up in the
He
air.
barely missed All Pro season 1. He's not making it this season, but he almost did season 1. He's been a very good second D lineman.
He complements Jamario very well.
Brydon Jameson has been really good this year. Tyrone Quartermain, okay. Owen Moss, okay. I think it's between Roger Elwin or Whitaker Nichols, and I would pick Roger Elwin.
I mean, I can't not pick Roger Elwin, you know. And even if Whitaker Nichols was amazing, I mean, you're not amazing enough to stop an entire run offense by yourself. Whereas Roger Elwin probably can because of how large and wide this man is. So I'm giving it to Elwin as well.
For the worst player, there's some bad players here, but I think Jeremy Jacobson is the single worst D lineman in all of football, next to the Hermans.
If you're just barely better than the Herman brothers, then that's not an accomplishment. To be in touching distance of that wretched bloodline is curse upon itself.
Their third brother is coming up in the season 4 draft.
Oh, let's take a chance on it. Last round.
So let's see here. You got Monty
Asher Saylor, All Pro.
Asher Saylor made All Pro from the 14th round. Yeah.
Mr. Irrelevant actually is having a great second season.
He barely is out of the All Pro conversation right now. He's like the number 7 wide receiver. Andre Vermo just passed him for 6, and only 6 make it. I think it's between Saylor and Thando, but Saylor did make All Pro as a 14th round pick. He's not having that good of a season 2,
but to accomplish All Pro as a 14th rounder, there's not that many other All Pros joining Asher Saylor here.
Asher Saylor, for the worst. There's some bad players here.
I mean,
2 quarterbacks were taken. Phil Browning, who started season 1 for the Rhinos, is now benched for Joe Syke. And Sammy Holden, who was backup for the Paladins, who is actually the first retired player. He bounced around a little bit. The manager of the Paladins, Nikki Singer, was fined for attempting to execute him on the practice field because of how bad he was. He played for the Glaciers for a game. He started a game for them where he played horrendously, was released, and then he was signed by the Sharks in season 2 where they tried to force him to play tight end, and D lineman Dwayne Jefferson snapped his leg and ended his career. Claude Suggs is one of the worst linebackers in the entire league. He's on a practice squad now. I think it's between Claude Suggs and Sammy Holden.
You gotta give it to the guy who doesn't even obtain the ability to play professional football anymore.
He's not even an active player anymore.
This is pretty clear cut.
Sammy Holden.
Thank you for joining us on the JFL Sports Network. I am Jiffy Nuts, joined by my co-hosts.
I am Phil Holes.
We will catch you in the next video.
If you need your holes filled, let me know.
It's gonna be stupid though. This is a stupid video.
It wasn't. No, it wasn't. That was a good video. Did you stop the recording? Did you stop the recording though?